Welcome to SVG-TV News and Sports for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2014. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. The opposition New Democratic Party has defended its walkout from the 2014 budget debate yesterday, citing the silence of government ministers as the main reason. At a press conference earlier today, opposition leader Annie Muster stated that none of the cabinet ministers rose to support the presentation made by their leader, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, an act which the opposition deems as a sign that the government ministers have thrown their hands in the air.
You can't expect the opposition to get up and give the government's position. The government is in charge of the affairs of the country. It is their responsibility to present to the people of this country. Listen, this is what I'm going to do for 2014. So you heard nothing from the Minister of Education, nothing from the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade and ICT. We therefore took a decision that we leave the Parliament. And the Prime Minister then, he had already got up to do the winding up of the debate. The opposition then wind up the debate. The Prime Minister wound up the debate.
Eustace added that it is the duty of the government ministers to make a presentation on their various ministries so that the opposition can in turn carry on the debate by rebutting.
You're going to tell me after 34 years of independence, no government minister can stand up and make a presentation on the budget? But the opposition is expected to do so? What, we are the government? We're not the government. They were elected, and their role is to run the affairs of the country. Our role is to examine what they are doing and to agree or disagree, and also to state our own position or other alternative ways of dealing with the various issues that arise.
And opposition MP for Central Kingstown, St. Clair Leacock, backed up the sentiments expressed by his leader and said the opposition felt that they had no purpose in the Parliament as the government ministers did not perform their duties.
Parliamentarians, especially those in government, have always seized the budgetary occasion to give an account of the ministries. In fact, the norm is that the officers of the particular ministry come to the Parliament in support of their minister, and then they speak directly to the constituencies that have given them the privilege to be in the Parliament and explain the budgetary provisions around their responsibility towards constituencies. That was the abdication yesterday. That was the insult yesterday. It was a dereliction of duty by the government of today.
Claiming the day will go down in history, opposition MP for West Kingstown Daniel Cummings noted that he is certain that nowhere in the world have government ministers refused to contribute to a budget debate.
Debating the budget, the Prime Minister presents, the opposition leader presents his counter-arguments. We in the opposition shadow ministries. It is for the ministers to present their ministerial work, for which we can respond to. That is the established practice in the budgetary debate. It's understood around the world.
And the opposition leader says he plans to seek a change in the time allotted to the opposition to make their budget presentations. At an NDP press conference earlier today, Eustace noted that in other countries, days and sometimes weeks have been given for the opposition to make their presentation, while in SVG it is just some mere hours.
In other countries, after the Prime Minister presents the budget, the opposition has a certain number of days before they have to reply. In the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, President Barbados, the opposition has a week before they commence making their reply. In the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, when the Prime Minister finishes 9 o'clock at night, I have to reply 9 o'clock the next morning. And in a case as he did in this last presentation, he put all the economic information in an appendix in the back, which he did not read. And that appendix was 50 pages long. For me to deal with that, I would have to absorb that and present a reply in 12 hours.
In his response to the opposition's walkout of Parliament, Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves says there were matters of interest the opposition could have addressed had they took the opportunity to debate, but they chose not to.
There are several things which the opposition could have been talking about. They're saying that you're not allowing them. But the place where they should be speaking and raising the questions, they tell you they must come to those because they have 48% of the vote. But where they have the 48% of the vote and 7 representatives and 2 senators, they have chosen collectively, other than Eustace, and he only spoke for 2 hours. It looked as though they've taken the vows of monastic silence. And these are serious people.
Dr. Gonsalves said during the 2-hour presentation by the opposition leader, he sought to make proposals that had nothing to do with what was presented.
In Mr. Eustace's 2 hours, he did not in his 2 hours ask me one single question, which I must answer in the reply, you know. I took notes, you know. He didn't say, well, there are these things here and I don't understand this. Could the Prime Minister answer me in his reply A, B, C, D? No. And he made one suggestion. One suggestion which is entirely lacking in any utility in the present circumstances, because I gone past that long ago.
Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves believes that there is a climate in which persons continue to make up things about him and says it needs to stop now. In responding to an online report from the Barbados Free Press about him owning 2 Lear planes, which was rebroadcast twice on Nice Radio, Dr. Gonsalves told Parliament that while persons are constantly making up things about him, they are not considering the pain, humiliation and damage being inflicted on him as the leader of this country.
Ebenezer Joshua used to say that if you drive a 20-penny nail in a piece of wood and you take it out, the nail come out but the hole remains. You hear me? So they drove a 20-penny nail in my character. They took out the nail with the apology, but the hole remains. I've always said that if you apologize to me very promptly, you would make a willing heart of forgiveness, because that is my nature.
Dr. Gonsalves noted that now is not the time to be making such claims against him, especially as he is making the necessary arrangements to rebuild the country.
Take me away from the rehabilitation work, the recovery work, trying to get me to lose my focus. When they drive a 20-penny nail in circumstances like those current, they should really give a consideration to say, for instance, helping to fill up the 20-penny hole by giving $5,000 to the Red Cross.
The management of BDS Nice Radio Limited has since apologized to the Prime Minister for rebroadcasting the online article. Managing Director Douglas De Freitas has reportedly telephoned the Prime Minister directly and has written him a formal letter of apology. In February last year, the management of BDS Radio paid over 206,000 EC dollars to Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves for a defamation judgment against the radio station. Meanwhile, today the Antigua-based airline Liat has denied the Barbados Free Press online blog. Liat's acting chief executive officer Julie Reefer-Jones said the allegations are reckless and mischievous, and that the 2 aircraft mentioned in the article are owned by a publicly listed US-based leasing company trading on the New York Stock Exchange, the NYSE. The excise tax for a gallon of gasoline and diesel here has been increased by 50 cents with immediate effect. The announcement came on Monday by Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Dr. Rav Gonsalves while delivering his budget address. Dr. Gonsalves says the fiscal performance during 2013 highlights the need for further fiscal consolidation. He says the increased tax on gasoline and diesel, which is estimated to yield an additional $3 million per year, will not apply to diesel used in the production of electricity, as that will continue to be tax exempted.
Increase in the exercise is not expected to have any immediate significant upward impact on the price of fuel at the pump, as oil prices have been trending downwards in recent months. Mr. Speaker, if there is big jumps in oil prices, then I will review this imposition of the 50 cents per gallon. In the case of gasoline, the entire 50 cents can be accommodated by the lower price of gasoline. Indeed, I hereby announce with immediate effect that despite the increase in the excise tax of 50 cents on gasoline, the price of gasoline will be reduced by 13 cents per gallon. And the price of diesel will be increased by 35 cents per gallon. The new retail price will be diesel per gallon. The current price is $13.32. The new price would be $13.67 a gallon. The gasoline per gallon is currently $14.08. It will go to $13.95.
Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves in Monday's budget address reassured Vincentians that the Argyle International Airport is on target for completion by the end of 2014. However, he said the International Airports Development Company, the IADC, reported that this deadline can only be achieved if they receive all of the earmarked resources on time. PM Gonsalves explained in Parliament that the $100 million EC dollars budgeted for in 2013 has been brought forward in the 2014 estimates and appropriation bill. He further explained that the relevant sources of financing for the completion of the construction of the International Airport project includes funds from land sales at Canawan amounting to $54 million EC dollars.
Two Scotiabank's loans, $28.9 million EC. CARICOM Development Fund, $8.8 million EC. Alba Bank, $108 million EC. Taiwan Exim Bank, $27 million EC. Of these aggregate sums, slightly less than one half, or $93.2 million, that is one half of the Alba loan, and nearly 3/4 of the monies from the land sales. The status of the remaining monies is as follows. The balance of the Alba loan would be drawn down in accordance with the agreed timetable over the next few months. The payment of the remainder on the land sales is likely to be completed by the end of March 2014. Early this year, we will draw down from the two Scotiabank loans. And the drawdowns on loans from the CARICOM Development Fund and the Exim Bank of Taiwan will begin in the first quarter of this year.
Meanwhile, the PM stated that matters relating to the promotion, marketing and management of the airport are proceeding favorably.
We expect that some of the international airlines will enter into service agreements this year with the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines to operate out of Argyle International Airport. The Chief Executive Officer of the Tourism Authority, Glenn Beach, in conjunction with the IADC and the Office of the Prime Minister, have been driving these promotion, marketing and management initiatives. In due course, more will be said about them.
The airport is being built and equipped at a cost of some $700 million Eastern Caribbean dollars, the largest single capital project in the history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Opposition leader Annie Mustas has claimed that some farmers here have been receiving bounce checks for their exports in recent weeks. Responding to the 2014 budget in Parliament, Mustas claims that he currently has in his possession 3 bounce checks and he is now seeking answers from the government.
You take it from the government? No. Who is from?
That's from Wind Farm.
You didn't get them the 750,000?
Yes, but if they write...
So who is to pay the farmers that money? That is owed to them? No.
Government...
Who is to pay? I'm not saying government. Who is going to pay them? I tell you, I have 3. I could deal with it right now to pay workers. Who is going to make those payments?
Meantime, in responding to Eustace, Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves says those checks were not paid out by his government, and persons responsible for them should answer why those checks were issued in the first place.
Without I taking taxpayers' money, whether directly or indirectly through a loan. I would like the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to be paid for his bananas and other farmers. But the persons who go ahead and issue bounce checks, knowing that they have no money, can't do that. And if you issue bounce checks, nobody has to tell you that you're closing. You have to close. You yourself. So I would like very much if all the farmers who issue the bounce checks to make them available to whom bounce checks are issued by Wind Farm, to make them available to the relevant authorities.
A check in the amount of $123,000 raised by organizations, NGOs and the general public during a radiothon hosted by the National Broadcasting Corporation for victims of the 2013 flood disaster was this morning presented to Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves at Cabinet Room. The Prime Minister expressed gratitude for the donation, which he said would be put to good use.
It was a successful radiothon, and $125,000 is a good sum that we can do a fair amount of things with.
Other recent monetary contributions include $40,000 by the SVG Football Federation through CONCACAF and $50,000 by the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Distillers, among other donations. The RSVG police force will not be tolerating any misconduct by members of the organization. That's according to Commissioner of Police Michael Charles, who said they will be treating every situation which arises involving members of the force with professionalism and fair interest. The police here have issued a call to all holders of liquor licenses to pay up their outstanding fees or face the full brunt of the law. The call came from Assistant Superintendent of Police Glenford Craig at the Kingston Magistrate Court, where a holder of a liquor license, Kathleen Bailey, appeared in court to answer a charge of failing to pay her liquor license for several quarters. ASP Craig disclosed that there are too many delinquent liquor license holders in the state who have failed or neglected to pay this fee. Reports are that on January 14, 2014, Station Sergeant Scarrett went to the liquor shop at Upper Middle Street owned by Bailey and discovered that her fees were not paid for a period of time. As a result, the liquor on the shelves in the shop were confiscated and a charge brought against Bailey. Bailey pleaded guilty to the charge and a fine of $2,500 was imposed by Senior Magistrate Rayshon Brown Matthias. She was ordered to pay $500 forthwith or face a 1-month jail term. The balance of $2,000 is to be paid by March 28, 2014, failing which a 3-month jail term will be imposed. Members of the General Employees Cooperative Credit Union have been encouraged to get on board with the organization's Social Development Fund in the event of an emergency. Speaking to SVG-TV News, member of GECO's 50th Anniversary Committee, Janice King, says that their focus is not only on the development of GECO as a financial entity, but also the welfare of its members.
Each member makes a contribution once per year, and that is put into a pool. Per chance anything happens, like what happened on December 24th, and our members are affected, we use that fund to help. Plus we help with medicals and any other thing, any other distress that a member or members may go through. And I think that is the trust that most of the credit union are taking, and I think that is what we have over the other financial institution, and that could be accounted for the longevity and the success of the credit union.
And Ronnie Daniel, chair of the Anniversary Committee, said for GECO to remain a viable entity, it must have the full support of all members.
The credit unions are basically managed in terms of policy and some policy direction, managed by its members. And I think that has been primarily the success. Of course, others are doing better than others, and that seems to be the case that you refer to. But I think that has been a primary, a key ingredient in the success of the credit union movement.
It was pointed out that 3 additional branches of the credit union will soon come on stream. They are the ULP, South Rivers and Monkoke branches.